and resources, and Crater, that's the effect that they're making on the world itself.
As you're saying this, I'm already feeling like I'm getting smart by the second, smarter by the second.
So I hold my peers to that standard. It's one of the reasons why I admire what you're doing with this.
Thank you.
I remember you mentioned it. You brought it to reality so quick, and I'm just
my gosh.
That's exactly the kind of people I want to be around. What? How I'm tuned is I wake up every day inspired or hungry to do or dig into something.
You're smart in a boy.
I had the privilege of having both my parents are entrepreneurs. Very much so honoring my curiosities.
That's a bomb drop. Honor your curiosity.
Yeah.
I can't wait for all of us to be in the Ziiiro universe. That's how high I think of you.
The Ziiiro.
It's all necessary.
With Tifani
Hello,
Sage.
world.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of It's All Necessary with Tifani Sage. This is a space, and if you hear me smacking, it's because I'm eating delicious candy when I shouldn't. But this is a space where we're reminded every life experience that we get a taste of, whether it's big or small, it's only for our growth. And it's only going to prepare us and propel us to our next opportunity. So it's all necessary. Before we jump into this juiciness with this Einstein, I'm not going to stop calling you that because you really are. Like, subscribe, leave your feedback. I want to hear from you. Show me love. Do all the good things.
Do all the good things.
All of it. Okay. All of it. So tonight, my special guest is none other than Ziiiro Akupheli. And
yep.
I said it good?
You said
it right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ziiiro is a designer and a developer in solutions.
Yeah, solutions architect
At Comet+Crater.
Yep.
That sounds like something you would create.
Absolutely. That's my company, actually.
How did you come up with that name?
That's a good starting question. So before I was doing software design development, I was actually a rapper producer, and so my full artist name was Ziiiro the Comet. And over time, as I started to build out what was our one-stop shop studio, I was doing sound, video, websites, graphics, everything. The brand took a couple of different names, but as I started to fade away from doing the entertainment and performance side of things, I basically passed the name on to the business. So Comet+Crater is actually a metaphor for cause and effect. Oh, yeah. And so obviously the comets, those are the people who have all of this accumulated knowledge and resources, and Crater, that's the effect that they're making on the world itself. So
as you're saying this, I'm already feeling like I'm getting smart by the smarter by the second. Whoa, pop, pop, pop. All right, so my name is Tifani Sage. I'm a confidence and clarity life coach. If you're feeling unfulfilled in your life, or you don't know what's next for you, I'm your girl. I can take you to new levels of clarity. Click the link in my bio for a complimentary, complimentary call with me, so we can get your life on track. Click the link so we can connect. So let's start with childhood.
Cool.
Where are you from, and what is your fondest childhood memory?
So I'm from Staten Island, New York.
Okay.
And my fondest childhood memory. So me and my closest friends were just really aggressive and competitive video game players. And so my fondest memories were just kind of meeting up with them at each other's houses and just challenging each other to be better at the games. And I think that natural habit moved into the rest of our lives in regards to what we're pursuing in our careers and our lives and stuff like that. So, but honestly, just goofing around, cursing around my friends and talking shit, and just competing on retro video games. So
what
much so
console?
I was gonna say so much so that I'm currently working on some personal retro game emulation.
Oh wow.
So Nintendo 64, the PlayStations, what else am I big on? The Game Boys. So just man, anything that any startup sound that you hear that brings back nostalgia, the old PlayStation sounds and the old Sega sounds, I'm currently building all that into my own personal emulation station.
Oh my gosh. And also,
So-
I'm jumping off
It's
script,
okay.
but
not.
how? Oh man.
If I take you off
How
track
did
too,
you
I apologize.
come off? No, that's fine. I like going all over the place, and then
Cool.
it's like we end up on track somehow.
Cool.
But how do you even think of that? Are you like just laying down, or is it kind of like a little breadcrumb thing where you see a sign, Sega Genesis is coming back, or blah blah blah, and then you're like, oh shoot, I should go do, you know?
It's very much so honoring my curiosities. Like,
That's a drama. That's a bomb drop. Honor your curiosity.
yeah, like
Wow.
when something like I've been really focused on work for a while, especially being out in California now. And I think just the need to kind of get back to myself. I just sat and thought, I was like, what would make me happy that I can have like access to on a more consistent basis? And I bought an Xbox so that I can play games with my brother, but where our schedules are so different that like we don't really get to bond over Xbox anymore, like him being in New Jersey and me being in Cali. And so I'm like, okay, well, I might not enjoy all the games that are on Xbox, but there are some games that are so old and so goofy that like even just the sound of it turning on would bring me peace. So I was like, okay, well, what's out there that would let me do that? And then I kept hearing about like, oh yeah, like retro game emulation. And I'm like, oh, okay, this doesn't look too difficult. And yeah, like just I was like, okay, curious, and now I'm like, oh shit, I have my own like console now that has like a
Bam.
lot of my old like favorite games. But
I can't wait for all of us to be in the Ziiiro universe. That's how high I think of you.
the Ziiiro universe.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Who poured time and attention into Little Ziiiro?
Who poured time and
Yeah.
attention into Little Ziiiro? Yo, my mom. Yeah. My mom, and that's just the beginning, but I love my parents so deeply. Without getting to the weeds with that, just because that's a whole nother side story. But my mother specifically, there are sacrifices that she made that at a young age, it was very clear what those sacrifices were, whether they're emotional, spiritual, or even just respecting my intelligence enough to let me know the full truth, even if it was something that would disrupt my reality at the time, you know? And so that's something where when I think about like who poured, also too, I would like to say, like, I have the blessing of having a very rich community. So I have a lot of friends and a lot of family and people that I can like say like, yo, they really poured into me. But I'm just the first person that came to mind was like my mom set the standard as to what kind of respect I expect from my intelligence. You know, so she, you know, even if we feel the need to lie or like kind of spare each other from something, we'll catch ourselves in that moment and then just let it out. And because of that, it lets me know like she respects my intelligence. She's not gonna like disrespect me in that kind of way. And
deep,
you know, so no matter how bad things get, like, and I treat my friends the same way. So like in circumstances where someone really needs to hear something, or I'm like, it's always a time and a place, but I honor everybody's intelligence. Like I respect everybody's intelligence, because that's like, like fundamentally, like that's who you are at the center. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm cool with people picking on me and saying any other kind of crazy stuff. The one thing I don't tolerate is insulting my intelligence. And so I don't do that with anybody else. Like I try to keep things as very like to the point. And that's something I got directly from my mother, you know, and then my father elaborated on that over time, you know, so.
You know what I love about that is because one, this is when you're younger, and I feel most parents are like, you're too young to understand, or there isn't, I don't think there's a lot of parents like back then saying, how do you feel about this? What do you know about this? It's more like telling you don't know.
Yeah, I'm
you
the
don't
parent,
understand.
so you,
exactly.
Yeah. You know, so what's cool about that is my brother, my nephew, Micah, my brother, as I watch him father my nephew, I've watched him practice making that room for him. And so it's so cool to watch Micah feel like he has this autonomy when he speaks, you know? And so getting to watch that from the outside, I'm like, not only did that affect like you don't even realize how many people that affects, and like that's like that next generation.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm proud of the way that he fathers my nephew, and I can't wait for him to like for Micah to grow up and to know like, yo, like it was instilled in you at a very early age to know that your intelligence, your say in the matter means something, you know? So
that's so big.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. All right. So I feel like, how are we already done with childhood almost? How has your upbringing shaped you for better or for worse?
How has my upbringing shaped me for better or for worse?
And you can touch on the good and the bad.
Yeah. No, I'm comfortable talking all the way through it. I'll start with the for worse because I'd rather close on the for better, right? So for the worst part, I would say that just due to certain life things, it was very difficult for me to learn to trust, especially and what's interesting is especially because of how much truth I like the standard of truth that my mother set. When other people didn't meet me at that same level, it would make it difficult for me to say like, oh, if I can't trust you with this kind of information, or if you can't meet me at a certain level, I'm just not gonna share anything because I don't want you to put me in a compromising position.
Yes.
And I learned over time, and that's not to say like, you know, I speak so highly of my mother, but it's like I built my own understanding of the world around me. But my friends have done such a great job of demonstrating to me how I can trust them, you know? And so there are times where I was in really difficult situations where when I was finally pushed to the edge of like, okay, you need to say something about this. They made sure I knew I was safe to speak on it and to, you know, like, and like I said, like I have a very rich community. You know what I'm saying? I have and that's a humongous blessing. And so even to this day, like I'm learning more and more like, damn, like I can really trust you that deeply. Like you would hold that space for me. You would hold, or you would keep that comment or these thoughts between us so that I can like work through it as a person instead of being like scared that that's out there, you know? And so I wish I had learned to trust earlier, you know, and I wish I learned how to trust earlier. You know what I'm saying?
Because that would, I don't want to like fill in the answer.
No, that's
but
okay.
It would have, I guess, made you not feel so heavy with holding things.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah,
I think that I've taken on, and so that's another thing, like because of my upbringing, I've taken on so much and so silently that nowadays when I ask my friends like, hey, can you help me? I've had friends say, I've been waiting for an opportunity to show up for you. You know, and hearing that.
Okay, Mr. Independent. Because there's people who are the opposite, where it's like, bro, bro or ma'am, you can't do anything for yourself. You know what I mean? So,
honestly, I think even hearing that, like hearing the man, I was looking for an opportunity to show up. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is a possibility. Like somebody could be looking forward to looking out for you, you know?
Wow,
and
I can really relate to that.
Yeah.
I think for me, the podcast has shown me what a good community of people I have, and also like growing because they're seeing it. And then it's like, well, you know, I was a little like not skeptical, but they're probably like, but seeing me do it, it's like, oh, I'll help, or you know, whatever. And I'll answer of myself why please. I did not feel comfortable to be. We have an inside joke of me pronouncing my words. Shout out to Jamaica because you're the freaking reason.
Yo,
but,
run that up.
The reason why I would not feel comfortable reaching out to people, I feel, was many reasons. Top of my head, the opportunity of them not following through to help me, and it's like, oh, I really needed your help.
Yeah.
And two, not wanting too many people in the plans,
Yep.
because it's like you can sabotage this at any moment.
Right.
And if my trust is not there, all the way, and I'm like, may I try a thing? Let's see how you do with this. And that person miserably fails. It's like, okay, I'm hurt on many different, or let down.
So, So it's one of the things I've learned as an entrepreneur myself is you can't put so much weight and pressure on everybody around you. And so there is going to be a time in your career where you have to be the person that pushes the car first. I've also been on the other side of things where you're almost pushing the car harder than the person who owns it, you know? And in situations like that, what ends up happening is you might walk away full of regret because of how much more you've extended of yourself.
Oh, I remember when you said this to me.
You know, you know, if you pour from your reserves, it can usually end in regrets, you know? And
bomb drop. It's true. Pouring from your reserves versus
pouring your excess. Like your cup should runneth over. And that's a lesson I learned like over time as well. Is like, I think when you first start, especially, and it's always, I always encourage like my younger friends, like, while your overhead and your responsibilities are low, like really get in there and try to show up for everybody. Because as you get older, your time is going to become less and less available, you know? And so I'm very clear when I'm going to work on something with my friends. And one of the ways that I reassure them that the car is already being pushed is I'll meet them with a plan. So I let people know like, hey, this is already done and it can fly without you, but I would like you involved. And so that lets them know this is very serious and he's going to get it done anyway, you know?
When you said that with like, when you broke it down, like the strategy, I was like, you know, you're smart enough, boy. That's so, no, but if you think about it, that kind of like what I was saying with the podcasting, when people see you already doing the work, it's like, oh, sure, I'll help you versus, hey, help me. I have this idea. It's like everyone has an idea.
Honestly, I'll even say like I've had the opportunity as an engineer. So when I was working as a music engineer and producer, and then moving even into like the marketing website side of things, everyone has ideas, and I like to respect and have conversations with people about their ideas. But a lot of people never write their ideas down and think of like hey, here's a plan or a mission that I have to get this thing done. It's just like, oh, hey, here's this whimsical thing that I have in my mind. I want to take a shot. It's like, I might not be able to afford to take that shot with you if it's not clear, you know? And so there's been times where it's like, I want to help you out, but it seems so scattered or unclear that the sacrifice I might have to make to get involved with you on this might be too big. And then if it doesn't go through the way that it's not planned to do, then what will you do to help me to get myself back on track? Because
I was more thinking, then is the friendship salvaged or tainted?
No. And okay, so here's another thing too. And this is what I was saying, like I try not to put too much pressure on your friends. Business is business. Like I've done business with people who I would still consider friends, and I've done business with people who it might not be great business together, but we still have a friendship or a relationship of some sort. Like I respect you outside of our professional world of things, you know? I have business ideas and ways I want to go about them where it might not be compatible with you, but that doesn't mean you as a person isn't, you know, who you were to me, you know, depending on how you handle. Like there's certain things where it's just like, you know, you showed me who you actually are in the midst of this. Right. But I've also worked on bad ideas where I'm just like, we took a shot, didn't work. It's all good. Like, you know, let's just.
How long, I'm getting in like my project manager bag. How long do you give a project that's coming from a friend or anybody where it's like, okay, 3 months or 6 months or 1 month
before you consider it successful?
Before you're just like, I'm out. This is a bad idea.
Oh, you gotta. So you gotta learn how to exit. Like it's the art of exiting. Like you've got to find. You got to know when you can't take it anymore. So that means, and part of that is you communicating to the person you're working with, like, hey, this is what my bandwidth looks like. So we can work within these confines, you know?
And also know thyself.
Yeah. So that's another thing too. It's like, you don't ever want to step into someone else's machine or business and you don't got yourself together. So You know, I know how I operate. So I let people know, like, if you want the best out of me, you have to kind of meet me a certain way and come through with a certain amount of like reassurances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I work. Like I work in a very organized manner. So when I've had friends who just kind of like roll in and roll out of certain stuff, and I'm like, that's rough for me because I'm very calculated. There are people who might be too tight in regards to how they plan certain things. I'm like, I'm not sure if there's room for me in this thing, you know? And so it's such a dance, and I'm not gonna be in rhythm with all the different sounds, or the, if you understand what I'm saying. Like I know myself, and so I would rather honor your product by saying, hey, this doesn't sound like something that I can do with you, but I know somebody who might be able to do so.
And then there you go again,
you know?
still being resourceful. And if I can't do it, I know
here's somebody else. Yeah.
With when you said earlier when you were doing the music and then you went into, like, I call it the Ziiiro universe, was how did you mentally or emotionally approach the pivot? Were you tired of music?
Yo, that's a good question.
Gotcha.
Ooh, okay. So when I started, I was doing design and development for my own brand. So as a musician, like I was trying to pull together all these different sciences so that I could, at the time I was in college, so like I couldn't afford, web design, branding, anything, honestly. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to figure these things out. And I remember I had looked at my royalty check for music, and then I had looked at a check I'd gotten for a single logo, and I'm like, oh, hell no.
Wow.
Like, this is crazy.
Wait, so while you're doing the music, you were still doing like design stuff for other people?
I was doing so good for myself that other people were asking, like, hey, can you do the same thing for me? And so I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I got you. And so I'm like, I would do these graphic design things, and what I learned was by doing it for free, people were not appreciating it. And so there are people who had gotten design,
charge them,
yeah. And that's a whole nother, I might lead us over there in a second, but I just remember thinking what more I wanted for my life. Like I wanted to be able to just go out and do things, travel, buy equipment, just have the money to make decisions, and I was getting paid doing music, but a lot of it was negotiating and fighting with venue folks and people who had a label or wanted to do some label thing, and like negotiate. It was so much fighting and negotiating, and not to say there wasn't the same thing in like branding and design and development and stuff, but it was on a much more rational level, And so I remember thinking like, it wasn't even, and also too, it wasn't like a hard cut. Like it was such a gradual, like it's still like I still play around with music, but not on a competitive level, just because I'm like, the money I make off of a single website, off a single brand or like brand identity, I'm just like, that royalty check, it would take so long to get a royalty check to that point. And I just wanted more now. And I'm in a place now where, because I have so much control over the business, I can continue to build this thing out and then do music for me, like do the music, like that's the music that was succeeding in the first place. That's
a flex. That's a flex. And also, hold on, I feel like my thought is like running away, and I'm like, get back here. Hold on. With I forgot who I was watching. I want to say it was Lewis Howes. Shout out to Lewis Howes. But he had a guest on, and the guy was saying, building yourself to wealth is not that complicated. Right. Everybody has the same hours in the day, but we are doing different things in the day that bring us different checks at the end of the day. And also, too, a book that I was reading a while back, I think I want to say The Secret to the Millionaire Mind or something like that, where it said poor people I don't say comfortable, but they're okay with not improving themselves. Yeah. Whereas the wealthy, they're always trying to educate themselves. Yeah. And that doesn't always look like go back to school, right, uni or whatever, but go on LinkedIn, for the learning path videos, YouTube University, whatever. Yeah. But you saying this, it's like such a reminder, like, know what you want. Like
Yeah.
you said, you want options and money to, you know, just do what you want to do, travel or whatever. And everyone really owes it to themselves. And I know everyone doesn't have like the same reality, but take time and just write down what is it that you truly want.
Yeah.
And then take baby steps to go towards it.
There's so many people who are looking for like riches or betterment in their life. And then when you ask them, okay, cool, like how do you plan to get there? It's like they have no written plan. That's what I'm saying. Like it's so important to have inventory of your relationships, your resources and stuff. And also to decide like how can I best use or play these cards.
Exactly. And
I think like your social circle is also a big component of that. You know, you can end up sitting in an echo chamber that is so woe is me, so miserable and whatever, that becomes your ceiling, you know? And or you could sit in an echo, when I say sit in an echo chamber, like surround yourself with people who the verbiage they use is that of the rich, the verbiage they use is that of the intelligent. And so it's like all I'm used to hearing is people who want to propel and push and fight forward for something or build something out. And so I try to honestly like keep the people around me, like there's room for those who are comfortable where they're at. And it's like, cool, like that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. You may have found your happiness and your peace in that thing. How I'm tuned is I wake up every day inspired or hungry to like do or dig into something, just like with the game emulation. I just picked that up last week and I built my console over that week, but it was like I really want that kind of thing. So you know, that's the kind of aggression I have towards like ideas and manifesting stuff. And so I hold my peers to that standard. It's one of the reasons for why like I admire what you're doing with this, because I remember you mentioned it and now it's like you brought it to reality so quick, and I'm just like,
gosh,
that's exactly the kind of people I want to be around. You know, like someone who like absolutely, like there's so many people just talking. I don't remember,
were we having like, no, we sound so fancy, but like the regular rooftop party, pool party thing that we were doing, and I think it was maybe then that I mentioned it.
Possibly.
Wow.
Damn, how long have I known you now? Has it been 2 years?
Yeah.
Got you.
I feel like it was maybe late last year. I think
it had to have been maybe close to like the New Year's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. I just know I guess this is the basis of where I'm getting at. Like there are people who speak about different ideas, and the most that you'll ever see out of it is the talk of it. And then there are people who say something, and then the next thing you know, there are other people talking about it for them. You know? And so that's where I see you, and that's where I see a lot of my other friends, where they say, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And then the next time I check on them, it's like, oh, yeah, so I launched X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, that's what I'm fucking talking about. Like, you feel me? Like,
thank you. All right. Moving on to 100% necessary.
Okay.
So this segment is an absolute need. If you didn't have these things, it's like, you're done. You're burnt.
Have these things.
All right. So 2 characteristics you feel you needed to handle the journey of an entrepreneur.
2 characteristics. The ability to forgive.
Oh my gosh, please expound.
When you're first entering the world, I'll say, like it's almost too easy to fall into the rhythm of it's everyone else's fault. One thing I know for sure is I am in full control until God steps in, you know?
Wow.
And so...
Ooh, geez, that's powerful there.
And so... sometimes you might set really high expectations for friends, family, foes, you know, like, you know, you just have expectations for humans, and other life things could happen that can change the trajectory of what their intentions were, or their capacity to do something with you, for you, whatever. And being able to forgive yourself as well as being able to forgive them and meet them with some level of understanding. I will say, like, when I'm building something, I try my best to build it where, in the event that specific people who have not shown that they are reliable don't show, that the show can still go on and we can pivot and find ways. And actually the next characteristic is being a master of troubleshooting. Those two things, I think, being able to forgive not just the people outside of you, but yourself for not hitting certain milestones that you're looking for, but being able to troubleshoot, being a master troubleshooter, that is the foundation of all my success. I'll say, there's not a single problem you can throw at me that I get fearful of. It's kind of just like if the lights went down, if the mic went down or whatever, I'd be like, okay, let's think this through. Like, what are the reasonable ways we can get this back on track? As opposed to spending that time in panic, you know? And I'm talking like, that was a simple example, but I've experienced things where large stuff has blown up and it's just like, okay, that's difficult. However, we're intelligent, so let's fix it. Like, what's the thing? Like, what do we do to get this back on track? And that has worked for me through music, through live performance, through design, through development, through relationships, like just being able to troubleshoot, you know? So those two characteristics, I think, make it easy to be amongst people, because people will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. And then also too, it gives you the power to know, like, even if mistakes are made, I am capable of fixing them. So that's the end of that.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
You know, I love that. 2 pieces of advice that you took and applied to your life. And this could be anyone gave you this advice, or it was something that you learned, or, you know, you gave yourself advice.
2 pieces of advice that I took and applied to my life. 2 pieces of advice. I don't know if I got this from anyone specifically, or if it was just like my morbidity, I think it is. But one of those things is you will die. So what are you going to do up until that point? You know? And it helps you to kind of zoom out into how cosmically insignificant we are. And just like, no matter how crazy this world is, with what's going on around you, it's kind of just like, okay, well, might be crazy. Things might not be how you want it to be, or where you think it should be. But you can spend that time, like, again, like stressed, or, you know, you can acknowledge it's like, I have life. Like, I have life right now. So if today ends up being an off day or a slow day or a no day, like I don't do anything, at least it's a day. Like, I had the day.
Wow.
You know? And so that makes it easy to get through some really serious emotional and spiritual things, you know, like depression and, you know, or exhaustion and just like, or just bouts, you know? So it's like, I think that even bleeds into the whole forgiveness thing. It's like you might not get a chance to say, you know, it's all good, or, you know, or thank you for forgiving me for this thing. So it's like, let me just have some time to cope and get yourself right. But it's like, you will die. Like, that's a definite, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a definite. So with that being said, and because you don't know how to clock it, it's like, what do we do to get the most out of this day? And you just kind of focus on that thing. And another piece of advice,
while you think about that, I really like that advice, because I feel sometimes, I know even for me, I could just, the issue or the circumstance can make me feel like the walls are caving in, and it's like, tomorrow, next week, what? I can't even fathom that, because it's like, this right in front of me, what am I gonna do? And also remembering everything is temporary. Yeah, that's true. Like, sometimes it can be so loud in the moment, and then when the moment passes, you're like, is that what I was stressing about? Like, I came out of character because of that, you know? And I don't enjoy those moments. So that's why it's like, when I feel myself getting heated or like disrupted, I'm just like, okay, zoom out. This planet is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, and you're stressing about, you know, like, chill. It'll be resolved. You're smart enough, or at least you carry yourself in a way where you can work this out with who or whatever the circumstance is, you know? Random question.
Yeah.
Why do you think people, and that's very broad because people are so different, but why do you think people trip over the small things?
Probably a little bit of habit, probably like upbringing to some degree. I think that depending on like the life circumstances or opportunity to face something serious, if you're not somebody who has faced it, or if there's never been or if there's not been enough opportunity for you to face those things, you might carry some bad habits that just become like rhythmic, you know. Like people can change, you know, and I've seen people like change out of those bad habits where it's just like, hey, like when bring me back, what was the
we were talking about petty people.
That summary. Okay, this comes back to the thing you were saying about like your upbringing. This is actually one of the more positive things. I have experienced so many crazy situations that when crazy does show up, the impact it has is so light. And I know some people who have experienced.
Wait, say that again.
Yeah. So I'll put it like this: even from childhood, I had experienced so much craziness, like so many intense things that in my adulthood and have been taught on how to handle those things, that in my adulthood I have the tools.
Oh, got you. Okay.
I have the tools to not be tripped up by the little things. It's just like, yo, like you've been through so much worse. Like there's, you know, and I think that there are some people, and you'd be surprised, like people like way into their life who have either not been presented with enough opportunities to kind of like build tougher skin, or when they show up, they run. And that might be habit and upbringing. It might be, you know, it can be a slew of different things. Yeah. And I don't blame anybody for any of those things, but I will say that I encourage people, like when a challenge shows up, look at it as an opportunity. I look at it as like, hey, there's a chance for me to show that this didn't scathe me. You know, like there's a chance for me to show like I can get through it.
So how do you like if that happens, how do you approach that or deal with that in a romantic relationship? Because sometimes I think it's time to go. Cut the cord and go. Other times and other people may see it as like, no, this is something for us to work on and get better.
I will say that obviously communication is that first layer. So I think even before you get into a serious relationship, you should start like temperature checking how that person communicates, you know, and if they don't communicate in a way that you feel respected, then that should be enough. Sometimes we allow lust and other ideations to like draw us into a relationship and to stay into something. And I think I think that once you set the tone on, or once you have an understanding of like how that person communicates, get me back to the question.
Oh, like in some circumstances or some scenarios.
Oh, how they just keep them from tripping over the.
Yeah. Oh, the original question? Or
No, the relationship one.
Yeah. It's like, how do you tell someone, no, stop running away, you need to deal with it, or no, you really do need to cut your losses and just leave? Okay,
so some people are runners, and I will say I'm not a relationship coach, so I'm not, even what I'm about to say may be inaccurate, but to some degree that's an immaturity thing. You know, like to some degree, I think that some people are used to or comfortable with, if something goes wrong, I need to run away. Some people are better at keeping their composure as they gather themselves. I'm someone who likes to fix it right in that moment, but I also know that some people are not comfortable with that. And so there's a limit in regards to how long I'm willing to hold on to it before I completely drop it. Okay. And my limit is also pretty short. So, you know, if something crazy happens and then you want to approach me about it next year,
this is like a still romantic or?
Oh no, yeah, you're right. It's because you did say romantic. In a romantic, you're dealing with somebody on like a more consistent basis. Yeah. I will say that, I would still say you should bring that up in conversation and say, hey, when things get bad, how do you need to handle it? Because I'm the type of person that needs to handle it right now because I don't like to carry it. And you're the kind of person who needs to run away and compose yourself because you don't like to deal with it in the moment. So we have to find a middle ground, or it's probably best we separate no matter how much. Because I think that could get out of hand rather quickly.
No matter how much you and the person may love each other, or
I think that can be difficult because then that's going to show up in other ways in your relationship. So if you guys can't get the communication part down, then how is anything else going to have a sturdy foundation?
Oh yeah,
right.
Like, this is good because I'm the type where, Like, it depends on the level of how big of a thing it is. But if it's like a huge thing and, you know, me and my person are going back and forth and we're not getting to a resolve, I'm just like, I need to go. I'd not go like leave the relationship, but I need a mental break because I'm about to break down.
Here's something that does help, and this is something I learned from my parents. But before you blow up at anybody, before you take something as serious as it actually is, write it down and then read it out loud to yourself.
But Ziiiro, who has a pen and paper?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't have to be. I actually wouldn't advise you do it in that moment. I would say, like, if you guys are having something heated where you need to stop the conversation, and go and write it down, because sometimes what you'll realize when you say it back, say it out loud, is I sound dumb. Like, what am I fighting about? Like, what are we really? Because some people
arguing about tacos.
Nothing. Yo, you can't in a relationship. You don't want to be the person that picks every battle. Right? Like, you have to pick and choose what actually matters. So when you write it down or give yourself a second to realize, like, is this really a battle I'm about to have? I'm not going to say that there's a limited amount of battles that you can have in a relationship, because I feel like you should always be able to find a way to resolve. I think you should be practicing how to resolve so that it becomes natural to y'all. Yeah. But yeah, I will say, like, I've lost my train of thought, but it comes back down to communication. It comes back down to like building the right tools around yourself. Like, hey, I know myself in this way. I'm the type of person that needs to handle, and you don't have to go out and on the first date and say this shit. I'm just saying, like, once you guys like, okay, I'm actually interested in this person, let's do this. So you can let them know, like, hey, like, when shit blows up, I'm the type of person that needs to immediately solve it. So if I need to be mindful of the fact that you're not ready to immediately solve it, I'll keep that in mind. The next step after that is watching if they actually implement those compromises. Yeah, you know,
honor each other.
Because you might say, oh yeah, you know what, like, I can meet you halfway, and then every time the opportunity shows up, you don't actually meet me halfway, and it's just like, all right, you're talking out your ass. Like,
so is that now then the moment when it's like we need to
I think
reassess what
I think like yeah, you got so many people, like, people are so I'm talking in generals to, like, but like, we could get so much more done if we just told the truth and and just kind of like got to the core of it. I'm grateful because I was raised in New York, so there's a level of tough skin where I'm used to people saying such wild stuff. I'm just like, get it out your system. I'm gonna let you know exactly what it's gonna be. Like, I'm gonna tell you whether I am or I am not doing this. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's a lot of people who might not be so accustomed to that, you know, but I get a lot done because of that. My friends get a lot done because of that, not just in their businesses, but in their relationships. And so I look forward to having those kind of serious conversations with people, you know what I'm saying? Romantically, non-romantically, or was it platonically or whatever? And it's like, I look forward to getting to show you that when things get bad, we can actually talk it out. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know if I went too far or like,
nope.
Yeah, sorry.
It's unnecessary. So
it's unnecessary.
Moving on, 2 things or 2 places that refresh your creativity.
The shower.
Yes.
The shower. The shower is my safe place. Like, seriously.
I remember when Corinne said you were in there for a while. Remember one time?
Yeah. Yo, wow. That's my peace chamber. Like, I can be in the shower.
Hot or cold or medium? Not medium,
both.
like lukewarm.
Honestly, just the water. It doesn't matter the temperature so much. Just the water. I don't know why, but I love being in the shower.
Wait,
like,
and this is super random, but do you wet your hair every time?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Maybe
it doesn't dry out your hair?
I don't know.
I mean, it looks great.
I appreciate that. I'm not sure if I am or am not good with my hair, but I do get a lot of compliments. So I'm assuming whatever I'm currently doing is working out. You feel me? But like, the shower is definitely number 1, and number 2, other safe space. I'm sorry, other creative space. In the night. Just in the night.
In the middle of the night.
I was thinking of a very different night song, but
Wait, what's that one with Smokey Robinson. Oh, in the night. Let me stop.
I don't
now.
know. Yeah, I was trying to help you, but I'm like, nah, bro, I don't know.
I love this. All right. Moving on to work and lifestyle.
Okay.
Which I think you already answered it earlier, but I'll just ask. How did you find your way into design?
Yeah. So a lot of it was doing it. Actually, you know what's interesting? I think I used to go to a school called the Harlem School of the Arts. So shout out to them. And the Harlem School of the Arts, me and my siblings used to go. And I was introduced to so many different mediums. So I was actually doing design to some degree before I was doing music seriously. And so it was always there. Like I was always drawing like anime and then taking like photography. Like I've done like actually film photography, like red room photography. I've done like painting and stuff like that. And I think all of that just accumulated to at some point when I was actually doing like music. I'm like, okay, I need a flyer and I know exactly what I want it to look like. So I'm just going to draw it like this. And I was using GIMP and a bunch of cracked softwares and stuff like, you know, and just like getting the thing done. And I think on the software side of things, that started more seriously in college towards my music side of things, where I just needed to kind of get my stuff out there. I was learning about like, hey, I want a platform of my own where I can display all of myself in this one space. And so I had nothing but time and classwork, you know what I'm saying? So I just focused on like, okay, let me see if I can knock this out. And other people asking, and then me learning like, okay, I'm going to charge this person $700. Oh, I'm going to charge this person $1,000. Okay, I'm going to charge this person $2,000. And then I started to realize like, oh man, like people really do value the work that I'm doing. It was always happening at the same time I was doing music, but at some point it was dwarfing like the stuff I was doing in music, where I'm just like, I'm getting paid very well. I'm building a lot of really good relationships. I'm able to apply myself in, or be an asset to any room I'm in, whether it has something to do with music or not. Because even if I was in the room doing music, people would say like, oh damn, like that's the tech guy that does like X, Y, and Z, and I'd show them like how to hack all this stuff together, and that would be like that token where it's just like, oh, like we got to get Ziiiro in here, and I'm just like,
you are
cool.
saying a lot of things. I'm seeing it as you're speaking. You are, I don't know if I'm saying the word right, indispensable. That one, it's like you are, I can't even say like a jack of all trades. You are talented.
I appreciate that.
You saying wherever you are, bring value to the table. 3, you're using your time wisely, because I feel sometimes when people have, I mean, yes, you need to have your downtime and free days and stuff, but it's like, use your time wisely, because as you said, I mean, which, you know, we're all going to die, but it's just like, as you're saying all these things, it's like you have the tools. I don't know how to explain it, but like, I guess like in the video game where it's like the power, the strength, the agility, it's like your success meter is all the way up, because you have everything, you know, that it takes to be abundant.
I just realized I failed to mention something. And first off, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Humongous compliment. I'm not good with compliments. Like I kind of like clam up. So
really?
Like, yeah. But I really appreciate
Take it all
that.
in, my brother.
Nah, thank you. I received that. And the morbidity, the morality thing, that kicks in because I have sickle cell, you know? And so at a very young age, it was shared to me that that my life expectancy could be shorter than, you know, my peers. And when you get introduced to that information pretty young.
How old were you when?
Man, I was probably around 12 years old. Yeah, unfortunately, it was, I hate to say it, but there was a therapist in the midst of the caretakers I was with, and I don't think they should have disclosed it the way that they had, but I had gotten the information, and so it's something that had rooted itself into a lot of my decisions as a younger person. And so while the urgency for me regarding like, okay, yeah, like if my life does get cut short to, you know, 40, 50 years old, what was considered the life expectancy at that time with what research showed in that time, then I'm like, well, what will I do with that time, you know? And so that's why it's like, well, I'm just going to keep applying myself over and over, and I'm going to just push really hard. So I will say that it's not just like we're going to die, but it's also too something where it's like my health has definitely been a contributing factor to why I think the way I do. So it's like, okay.
You're a freaking genius.
Thank you.
And did you ever have a 9 to 5?
Twice. I used to work at Burger King, and then I used to work at Zoomies back when I was in high
the
school.
Skateboard
Yeah.
place.
And those were good times, but shit, I almost got let go from Burger King for eating all the chicken fries on the shift. and then Zoomies from Burger King, and then Zoomies I won't get into it, but there was just somebody who was just really full of shit, and I just realized like I have to cut myself out of this environment, just the way that I was being treated at that time with that last manager. So this is way back in the day. But
I ask because with like how my brain interprets it, it's like, which I have the same, the urgency to live.
Yeah. And
with that, I feel and read where it's like, well, a 9 to 5 is going to slow me up, because if I'm being told what my timeline is, 9 to 5 is going to eat up a lot of that time, and there's so many ideas and things that I want to execute. So
okay, let's get into that.
Bye. 9 to 5. I want to do,
Okay. And this goes to anybody who's thinking about going entrepreneur. You have to be very fucking real with yourself and very fucking serious about if you're going to do it, because you are responsible for absolutely every single success, but all of the failures. Wow. And when I say failures, I'm talking about nearing being evicted, not being able to go out and do certain things with friends and family, missing important family events and experiences, like stuff where it's like, damn, like I'm in a hole. It will get to you psychologically, it'll get to you spiritually, emotionally, to the point where you might be embarrassed to even go to people for help about some of this stuff. And I'm not saying that the same could not happen at a 9 to 5, but there are a lot of comforts and securities that come with a 9 to 5. Sorry. Okay. It was on its way up, and I'm just like, yo. All right. And so for my friends, especially my friends, I'll say this: if you're gonna go entrepreneur, practice doing it all on your own while you're super young. I'm talking like 14, 15, 16, like, try a thing, sell a thing, whatever the thing is. Try to demonstrate the value that you're providing with the thing, whatever the thing is, because you have nothing but time. And I'll say, like, all things considered, like you should only have like time and resources available to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying money. What I'm saying is just like, I have time, the most valuable resource, so I can give it a shot. As you get older, it gets a lot more difficult because you start to acquire dependence, so whether that might be aging parents, might be having children, might be your relationship, your partner.
That,
yeah.
Parents thing.
Yeah. Like, people forget their parents, and it's just like, your parents might age into a place where it's like, I have to take care of them or look out for them, or somebody has to do it. I have to be able to afford to put them in a place so that my parents are not being abused or mistreated, and so, or your grandparents even, you know what I'm saying? Like, people's circumstances are very, but if you're in the 9 to 5 space and you're like, okay, like, I hate my boss and I hate doing this monotonous thing, try to save up about, maybe 6+ months so that you can keep your roof over your head, because every month that escapes you from that 6 months, you're going to start feeling the agony of like, oh shit, this may not work, and a lot of businesses that are first starting, they don't just succeed. Like, not everybody has investors waiting to pour into them. Sometimes cultural and environmental circumstances can affect like your ability to access some of those resources, and that's a real thing, and so you gotta take account or inventory of like who you are, what's available to you, and what is your plan to get it done. You have to write it down. Like, you got to prepare that thing. Yeah. Otherwise, like you're gambling, and so you can put yourself in a really shit situation, you know. With a 9 to 5, what I will encourage is if you feel like your 9 to 5 is a
prison.
It is a prison, right? Like if it's taking so much of your damn time that you can't do anything, you either need to ask for a raise or leave. And that's what people don't think about, is you have to learn to negotiate your way into having more time freedom.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've seen people who I've talked to friends who will be in a job or a circumstance for so long and be beat up by it. And it's just like, have you asked for a raise? Have you asked for promotion? Have you asked to be alleviated from some of these responsibilities? Are they not creating an environment where you can even do that? If so, take your current experience and bring it to a company that can value that time, so you can free up some of that space in your head.
And they should already have the 6 months thing saved.
I would. If you're transitioning from one job to another, that's a completely different beast, and I'm not going to be the person to advise on that, right? But what I will say is, if you're going to go into the entrepreneurial side of things, you should at least make sure that whatever the idea is making money before you leave your job.
That's so big.
You know, some people jump out like, oh yeah, like
it's gonna work now.
I call it mixtape syndrome, right?
Wait, the what?
Mixtape syndrome, where an artist will work on a mixtape for all year, and it's like, when I drop my mixtape, the whole world's gonna stop, and they drop their SoundCloud or Bandcamp or Apple Music mixtape, and the world doesn't stop. And it's like, oh shit, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, you gotta be realistic with yourself, you know. And so the marketing that needs to get to go into the product or the experience, make sure that the pipeline for sales to even happen is set up, you know. Like some people don't think about like how or where will I sell the merch, where will I collect the emails, where would I do, you know, all the different slew of things that are required for you to run a business. Do I have my terms and agreements, contracts, whatever, if it's a service or a product? Like people like they get so razzled, you know. There's a lot that people, and I get it, like I do understand, like some people just need to leave that job, you know. I don't think that they need to leave the 9 to 5, but I will say that when you pivot to 9 to 5, when you pivot to like entrepreneurial, your life, your relationships, and the way you communicate with people will be very different. You know, I'll even say like, even to our own relationship, you were very understanding in regards to my availability, you know. And so between like talking with you and like other friends, I've had to like miss out on certain things where I'm like, I can't make this thing because I am dependent on closing this contract or attending to this relationship with this client that I need to close for this year, you know, or I'm just burnt the fuck out. Like I don't have the capacity to talk to anybody. So I'm going to show up and be completely checked out because I've spent all week talking to people all day, you know?
Listen, this weekend, it's club bed.
Yeah.
Pillow in bed. I am so tired.
Oh, facts.
I am so tired. I'm just like, one more day. One more day.
Nah, seriously, like, I encourage that more than anything. I think before you start thinking about how you can pivot into to new work, I would say find out if you are able to configure your 9 to 5 routine to acquire more rest time first. And then if you can acquire that rest time, you can choose to allocate that rest time, parts of it, not all of it, parts of it, towards the entrepreneurial side of things. Because I think people will burn themselves out trying to run both, then be disappointed because they're fired from one and then the other one's not working. You know, so there's a lot of like nuances to this thing. And so I had the privilege of having both my parents are entrepreneurs, so they've built and run their own businesses. And so I got to see a lot of that stuff. That's a big privilege. That's not something that everybody gets to come in contact with. And so
forget one parent.
Both running their own businesses and me getting to see what that looks like. And I didn't entirely understand it when I was younger, but now I can reference some of those moments and experiences and be like, oh, okay, that's how she handled the, you know, this, without saying, I'm not going to go into the depths, but without like, you know, just seeing how they handled certain business things. So I can reach out and talk with them. There are certain things that they can't help me out with anymore, but there are certain things where I'm like, hey, this is a pretty standard situation. Like, how would you deal with this? You know,
the things that they can't help you on, is it because it's like dated?
New age, we're in a new age, like where there's technologies that they don't understand. Like I can throw AI at almost anything and solve certain problems, and they're just now learning what AI is and how to function with it. You know, so
shit, me too. I'm like, wait, what?
You know, like, so
that was so good.